Te damos la bienvenida al Conservatorio Superior de Música de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, Astor Piazzolla, en su espacio virtual. El Conservatorio es una institución pública y gratuita dependiente de la Dirección General de Enseñanza Artística del Ministerio de Cultura de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, en la que se imparte educación musical en los niveles inicial, medio, terciario y de posgrado. Toda la información sobre nuestras carreras, cursos, talleres y actividades artísticas las encontrás en nuestra página web o en las redes sociales.
Matthew Law, nacido en Hong Kong, el Dr. Law obtuvo su doctorado en artes musicales en percusión contemporánea de Stony Brook University. Tiene un máster en música de New York University y obtuvo su licenciatura de Hon Kong Baptist University. El percusionista Dr. Matthew Law realiza una amplia variedad de repertorio, dedicándose a un fuerte interés en la música de percusión contemporánea. El Dr. Law hace música en todo el mundo, conciertos y masterclasses. En su recorrido por el mundo ya visitó años anteriores Buenos Aires, trabajando conjuntamente con integrantes del ensamble de percusión del Conservatorio Astor Piazzolla, haciéndolo un amigo de la casa. Fue finalista en categoría vibráfono de la Sociedad de Artes de Percusión de Italia en 2016, y su objetivo es expandir el repertorio de percusión cada vez mayor, empujando los límites existentes.
Hi everybody, my name is Matthew Lau and I'm a percussionist based in Hong Kong. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this event, for this Encuentro this year. I know we're all very sad around the world that music has stopped because of COVID and everything is being done online right now, but I think we'll get through this together and we can use this amazing platform online to create a lot of new relationships and learn a lot while we're staying at home and staying safe. So today, I wanted to talk to you about identity and how you find yourself, how do you find your voice in music, basically. And that is a very staggering subject because this is going to be a long journey for you. You're in music school, you are a dedicated musician. A lot of musicians spend their lives just playing music and never finding their voice. And I hope you find your voice doing what you like. And let's get into it. So I thought about a lot what I was going to do when I got an invitation from Nacho and Marina. I could talk about grip, I can talk about technique, I can talk about the pieces, I can listen to a performance and give you comments, and I can do all this technical percussion stuff, right, the nerdy stuff. But I thought to myself, well, that is so much better done in person because this is sound, right? This is a lot of body gesture, a lot of the stuff we will need to do in person to produce a nice sound, nice relaxing stroke, relaxing sound. We need to relax our body, we need to relax our breathing and everything, right? So I thought to myself what I could do, what I could offer to this event that is very useful to you. Well, everything else. Practicing, playing music, and listening to a teacher, going to school, finding repertoire, it's about, I would say, 40% of what we do, 30 to 40%. The rest of it, it's luck, right? It's pure luck. And there's a small percentage of it is about everything we do outside of music. That is outside of practicing our instrument, outside of finding the right sticking, outside of finding the right grad school to go to so you can develop your own style and stuff. But a lot of the stuff happens with non-musical stuff. Like what? Like emailing, like building yourself as a brand, like writing your CV, writing your bios. And a lot of the stuff have to do with finding yourself, finding who you are as a musician, finding your own identity. There is a million of us, right, playing the same marimba pieces, playing the same percussion repertoire in the world right now. Percussion compared to flute and piano and other instruments are relatively young still, but in this day and age right now, year 2020, compared to when I was a student 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it has gotten a lot bigger. the repertoire has grown exponentially. People, students who pick up percussion, the number of students has grown a lot as well, and the need for teachers also grown a lot. So there's just a lot of us playing this wonderful groups of instruments, not just one instrument, right? And it's very hard to distinguish yourself because everybody play the same rap, right? Everybody play the same kind of thing, and how do you find your voice in that pool of people? This is very difficult. And if you're listening to this and where you are in your career, whether you are first year, whether you're second year, whether you're about to graduate, or whether you're about to go to grad school, or you already graduated, right? You are in the world of gigs, of concerts, and you're still finding yourself, who you are. You might find this useful. So there's no magic formula. Let's just put it this way. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories of my personal journeys and how I find my voice and how I established my percussion group, the Abstract Project, which was only 2 years old. So some of you guys have met me, like I said, and I get to know some of you guys really personally, and we have a great friendship because we talk about music, we talk about life, and everything sort of come together in a one small part of a big puzzle. And we play music because we love it, right? We play music because it makes us happy. Talk to any artist, dancers, visual artists, everybody. It's not because we can make millions of dollars doing it. It's because we love it. We cannot live without music in our lives, right? And we love what we do. And that's very lucky for a lot of people outside of this world, outside of this art sector. Their jobs aren't necessarily things that they like to do, and instead they are somehow depressed or compromised in a way. I'm not saying music is easy in your career path. It's going to be really hard, to be honest, but at least you do what we like, right? So how do I find myself? How do I find my voice? Like I said, if you met me, if you came to my concert in Buenos Aires a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, last year, I mainly play contemporary music. That is music composed after 1945, which is everything that we play because we don't have a lot of dead composers writing stuff for us, right? Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, our instruments not developed yet. Okay, this is a fairly new instrument with maybe 50, 60 years old, with the vibraphone being a little older, 100, and the orchestral instrument you can date back to classical period, but still the role of solo percussion playing doesn't come into prominence maybe after 1969, the early 70s, right? So this is what I play. This is what makes me happy. I play a lot of different stuff, but this is what my program is. And how do I come about finding this program? I play a lot of vibraphone music. This is what I do mainly. I do a lot of avant-garde vibraphone music, sometimes avant-garde music as well. I do play multiple percussion, mainly American and a European tradition because that was my training. But let's backtrack a little bit. So we've all been there, right? You go to school and your teacher tells you you need to play this marimba solo, you need to play this Bach, you have to play timpani solo, you have to play snare drum excerpt, you have to play this excerpt, you have to play this thing. And then you as you grow older, year 1, second year, third year, fourth year, why are we doing all this rap, right? Sometimes we think about it. Why are we playing all of this? Well, we play all these rap to familiarize ourselves with the idiom and the language written for this particular instrument. And from learning a lot of repertoire, like reading books, right? When you learn a language, for example, you need to read a lot of literature. It is the same thing. You have to familiarize yourself with different style of percussion repertoire in the last 50 years, 30 years or so. And within that, you need to find what you like, what makes you happy. What composers do you like? What was their style? And find those composers and write it down, put them aside, see what they can lead you to next. Okay, I'm going to come back to that point. So this is what we're doing in undergrad. So personally, when I was younger, I came from a normal family. None of my parents are musicians, but I love music, so I wanted to learn piano when I was younger. So I picked up piano when I was 6, and after a couple of years, I started playing percussion when I was 10. And, you know, I thought it was really fun because you get to play all these wonderful instruments you have in the band room, and it was amazing. And it was until maybe after 10 years or so, when I was 16, I decided to really get into percussion and go to music school with percussion as my major instrument. So coming from an Asian background, we play a lot of melodic instrument. We play a lot of melodic-oriented pieces with clear melody, pieces with homophonic texture, a lot of slow music, actually just like a lot of slow ballads we listen to in the Western pop tradition. We do actually listen to a lot of canto pop in Cantonese, and it's very much the same way. We don't listen to a lot of fast songs. And from a piano background, playing notes, for example, on the keyboard is very comfortable to me. And that was really easy for me to transition into playing marimba, playing vibraphone, because everything was really easy to me at that point. I had been playing piano for 10 years or so, right? So I had a head start of playing percussion. I learned the note really fast. I learned stuff fairly quickly comparing to my peers of my same age. And when I got into my university, I used all 3 years of my undergrad degree playing possibly almost every single piece you can think of. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but you get the idea. Okay, 90% of the center rep on the marimba, on the vibraphone, on snare drum and everything, mainly on marimba. And I thought I was the best because it's a small city. Hong Kong's a small city, and they're not. Back then, there was about 14 years ago, there weren't that many percussionists at that level. So for me, I thought I was the best. I thought, I'm going to get into like the best grad school there is in the U.S. and I'll be the best. And I wanted to further continue my study in the U.S. because one of my teachers from here, he's the principal timpanist of the Hong Kong Philharmonic. He is actually American. He's from Chicago. He's also a fabulous composer. He writes really, really difficult avant-garde music. I'm actually going to premiere a piece of his next week. So at that point, I wanted to play timpani. I wanted to be an orchestral timpanist. So I asked my teacher what I would do. And he said, well, maybe you should go to the U.S. to study with his former teachers, maybe other teachers, other schools where you can audition in those schools. So I did a little audition tour and I got into the schools. And at that point, I still wanted to play timpani. I chose New York. I went to New York University and studied with timpanist Jonathan Haas. Primarily, he was my teacher. But he also does a lot of different things. But I still wanted to do timpani. So I went to Astor Music Festival. I went to other music festival that is orchestral oriented, very competitive. Got into it, played all of the timpanist excerpt, the second round excerpt, and the third round final excerpt. I went to a couple of job auditions, and I realized that's not what I wanted to do. I want to play timpani, but I don't want to go through the audition process of being a machine, an audition machine, right? You're processing excerpt like you're a machine. I don't want to do that. And at the other hand, there is another side of the repertoire I do not understand, right? So at that point, that was my first year of my master's degree. Some of my buddies are playing pieces that I will be playing now, and I am not familiar with that language at all. It's like listening to a new foreign language. I was used to tonal music, and I'm like, what is that? And are they new? And they were like, no, this was written in 76. This was written in 84. It's not new at all. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to get on with that because I thought it was really interesting music and it's super hard to play. I don't understand anything. It's not your tonal music where you have cadences, you have phrases, you have melodies to follow. You have a chord progression of 1 4 5 1. The usual. But I still love listening to classical, romantic music, orchestral music. I love playing Mahler Symphony. But at that point, I wanted to focus more on everything that I don't know, right? From 70s to that was 2010. That's like a big period of time where music is developing and I don't know anything about those music. So I told my teacher, I was like, I'm going to stop doing timpanist audition because I wanted to understand more about this music, this wonderful music and the meaning behind this. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So the first piece that I've ever picked up was a vibraphone piece. I thought it was easy. And I don't know what it was because I was just a student, right? It was Omar by Franco Donatoni. Turned out it had been one of the hardest pieces written for contemporary vibraphone in history. Still one of the hardest pieces I've ever played. Still one of the pieces that I would play on tour, and I would switch out with other pieces that I play in that very same style. So I was playing that for about a year, and like I said, I know I can learn stuff pretty fast, so I learn those notes pretty fast, but I don't know what that means. It's like when you memorize a foreign script or a foreign language or a foreign paragraph, but you don't know anything about it. Meaning, character, grammar, anything, right? It's daunting. So I was like, maybe this is something I would pursue because I was about to finish my master's degree and I still had a lot to learn about. So my teachers, Jonathan, suggested me to do a doctorate degree. That was out of my planning because I wasn't gonna, do a DMA. So he sent me to a couple of schools and a couple of teachers whom he think I would work well with, right? And I ended up studying with a wonderful guy named Eduardo, also in New York. And it was about 2013, I remember. So for any DMA program in the US, any doctorate program in performance, it's not a very short program, anywhere from 4 to 8 years. My program was about 4.5, 5 years. I did a faster track, so I finished it in 4 years. Halfway through the DMA program, we have to play so many recitals. We have to play 5 full-length recitals. So I used the first 2 recitals to sort of familiarize myself with this entire new world of repertoire that I don't understand, right? So I kept playing all these really hard rap, you name it, ribbons, Thursday, after stirrings, She Was Up with a Small Blanket, Asanga, Safa, all these like extremely hard rap. So I'm really familiarized with the avant-garde percussion world at that point. And Eduardo, my teacher, he treated us, all DMA students, like professionals, right? So like he was like, well, outside of school, you should be doing things. You should be having connection because when you graduate, you want to have something to fall back on. You want a relationship. You want to foster certain things so you have a career going. If you don't do any of that, when you graduate, you have nothing, right? So he always said, like, you guys are young professional, about 30% of the time should be spent at school, 70% of the time should be outside of school. And he told each one of us that you should find something that you like and develop on that idea. So at that point, I don't know what to do. I play a lot of marimba at that point, and he's a great marimba player. And I told him I didn't find pieces that I really enjoy playing on marimba. Like I find pieces that I like. There are 3 pieces in the repertoire I really like, but there's not enough of that. And I think people are starting to develop more marimba pieces in the last 20 years. There's a lot of commission, with all these wonderful marimba players in the world, but I just don't get the same satisfaction playing those pieces, and there's just not enough good pieces written for marimba. And on the other hand, the vibraphone has also been sort of an underdog of an instrument, right? Because it has a very prominent jazz history behind it. And people write about contemporary vibraphone music, but not a whole lot. People focus on marimba a lot. People focus on multiple percussion a lot. So I thought to myself, I told him, I'm like, maybe this is what I should do. So I made my own arrangement. I found standard repertoire in the vibraphone rap, and I asked some of my buddies like what other pieces there is, because I don't know everything, right? And in my last 2 recitals, in my very last final DMA recital with my oral dissertation, It was a vibraphone recital, and it was what set me aside from other player because that was the last thing I had to do in school, right? And it was tough because I didn't know if this was going to work out, but I have found enough pieces and I found enough in the repertoire that gets me going. And you're going to say, well, what happened if you don't find pieces? Well, that is a very good point because you should be developing that idea, okay? Keep that in mind. We are playing an art form that is constantly moving along in time. It's developing, it's moving forward all the time. If someone else is not doing this, well, that doesn't mean that you cannot do it. If you have a wonderful idea of playing percussion with voice, not singing, spoken text, you should do it. There's a little side story there. My dual partner, Abby Fisher, was the same way. Now she's known for her playing with spoken voice. She commissioned a lot of pieces. She's hosting the Future PASIC Focus Day on this very subject. But back then, a couple of years, 10 years ago, there were not a lot of pieces and people don't really develop any of that. That is what you should be doing. So it was the same way for me. I had that program set. It was maybe like 60% of existing repertoire, 30% of arrangement, and 10% of commission pieces for myself. So this is what you should be doing. Look out for commissions. Look out for new pieces. Talk to composers, friend. This is very daunting, right? There's a lot of information throwing at you, but this is what you should be thinking about when you're in school, especially when you are in later part of your school year, like if you're about to graduate your undergrad, right? Many of you are thinking of going to grad school. You should be thinking about what style you want to do, and hunt down the teachers that might be familiar with your style or you want to study with. We live in a day and age right now where everything, the world's knowledge is at the control of your fingertip, right? You have your phone. You can Google anything really quickly. I'm not that much older than you, but when I was younger, when I was in school, YouTube had just been developed, right? So there are very bad videos, very pixelated videos on there, and when you need to talk to someone, you have to send an email, and you have to wait for them to reply. Sometimes you write faxes because not everybody had emails, and it was hard. It was tough to find that person to understand their style. Now we can do it through Zoom, through various internet resources, but before. We don't have any of those. I had to go to the U.S. every summer to study with prospective teachers because I want to talk to them about my style. I wanted to see if the teacher is right for me. But now, like I said, everything's it's Googleable. Is that a word? Googleable? Able to Googleable? So do it. If anything you should take from this session is that if nobody is doing what you want to do, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. You should try doing it. You should develop ideas, and always, people around the world, somewhere in the world, they share some thought with you. You should locate those people. They are like-minded people you should be talking with. This is geographically specific because I know you guys are in Argentina and the resources are rather limited, right? But like I said, you don't need to fly to places anymore. Don't be afraid to reach out to teachers. Don't be afraid to reach out to artists. Don't be afraid to reach out to like-minded peers and talk to them. If you don't know them, if you don't know anywhere to find them, what should you do? You should talk to your teachers. You should talk to your peers and like, hey, I wanted to do something with a Wii joystick. I had a friend who, this is what he does. He had a Wii joystick, the video game. He would take that apart. He will find accelerometer out and put it in his body and develop crazy electronic music with it. This is motion control. Amazing. Not a lot of people have been doing it, but there are a couple of teachers been doing it in the U.S. So they reach out to those professors and they develop a certain style and they run with it, and it's amazing. I'm not saying you should be doing what I'm saying. Like, oh, Matt is playing vibraphone, I should play vibraphone. Or Abby's playing a piece with voice, I should do voice. Or he's doing Arduino, or he's doing joystick. That's just examples. You should be doing things that makes you happy and you're interested in. For example, I play very difficult music, right? But I also love disco and the dance beat. Disco, dance, electropop maybe. From the 80s, early 90s, I am a sucker for like cheesy music, especially big hairspray. I think it's fabulous. And also like I grew up in 2000, right? I went to high school in year 2000, so like Britney Spears, Beyonce, all this pop is in my head. So I wanted to combine the two with the vibraphone, with electronics. So I commissioned one of my friends to write me a piece that it's like a baby of all of those. It's like a non 4/4 bass disco beat that's weird. You can imagine yourself in a nightclub with purple walls melting, you're drinking and it's about 3 a.m., you're having fun, but there's a DJ there and then you're playing live loops. So the piece is called Loops. You guys can listen to it. I've sent the video to you guys. And the result was really fun. It's not really easy listening, but it's really hard to play, and that makes me happy because this is what I like. On the other hand, I would play avant-garde music right next to it because it's such a contrast change that I like both styles. I like both pieces, so this is how you create programs and stuff. So that was kind of my journey. It was hard, but a lot of us is doing it in the new music world. A lot of us, this is what distinguish ourselves from the pool, like the 5 million other players there is. Now, you play all of that, and you're going to ask, well, that's not enough, right? Yeah, that's not enough. A lot of the time, it has to do with luck. It has to do with doing the right thing at the right place at the right time. So you have luck. A lot of the times you have to be self-sufficient. You have to trust yourself. You have to make things happen your own. This is very important if you don't want to go to grad school, right? If you want to stay in your country or your city or even your hometown, if you're not from Buenos Aires. If you see a void, if you see a gap in that scene, in that city, that no one has been doing it, but you have the knowledge or you have what it takes to do it, you should do it. You should talk to your friends. You should, hey, let's do something together. We graduated, there is no percussion duo in the city. Maybe we should do some duos because you have some instrument, I have some instrument, we can rent something. Start small. Do some non-paying gigs first. Talk to composers, talk to museum, talk to bar owners, talk to your teacher for connection. Make a website. Make recordings. Make a lot of recordings. Start writing about ideas for concert, for synopsis, for ideas behind it and everything. A lot of it, we're living in a day and age where an agent is not necessary now. This is not back in 20 years ago. When you win a competition, there's going to be a record agent that's going to sign you and you're going to be famous, right? This is what happened right now in the classical world, classical pianists, classical violinists, etc. But for new music world, for percussion, for a composer, especially the two of us, composers and percussionists, we're like best friends because a lot of us, we're doing self-promoting. And it's a daunting task. It's not easy. And this is something that we don't learn it in school. We should be learning that in school. There's a class you can take, but one class is not enough. There's a book to actually use. It's called, I think some of you actually have this copy. Look at Unico. Beyond Talent by Angela Miles Beeching. She was a cellist actually. We went to the same school, went to Stony Brook. She's a lot older, but she was a full-time career counsel in the New England Conservatorio in Boston. This book covers everything: how to write CV, how to write grants, how to do recordings, how to dress for a photo shoot. It's everything beyond your musical talent. That's why the title Beyond Talent. And if you talk to many new music people or many independent artists like myself, you will find a common denominator. we self-promote. We're not afraid to talk to people, and you need to be doing that if you want to be successful, if you want to get your name out there. You can't be afraid of, oh my God, you know, no one is doing this in the world, maybe I shouldn't do it, I'm not good enough. Well, if you don't try, how you know if you're not good enough, right? It was the same thing with my percussion group, the Abstract Project. So the story with Abstract is, me and my other partner, there are two founders, right? Me and Karen, she went to McGill University, she studied with Ayun Huang, who's a fabulous professor and percussionist, specializing in contemporary music and also theatric music. So the thing is, we both moved back to Hong Kong the same year, and after the first year, we discover there is not a good high quality percussion group that's playing high quality percussion music. A lot of the groups here are playing transcription or playing band music or playing ensemble music where there's a conductor. Nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to bring something to the playing field that is high level, that is fun, that is contemporary oriented, right? And this is personally my goal is to raise everybody, general audience, literacy of understanding contemporary music in general, because this is not the easiest to listen to. This is not Beyonce, right? So we found a group after 1 year of moving back to Hong Kong, and things have been doing pretty well for us. Karen are no stranger of organizing things, and myself, we always think outside of the box. When we see something that is not happening in our scene, and our competitors, other group in Hong Kong is doing similar thing, right? We're going to do something so different that's going to become a unique identity to us. That is going to be so different than everybody, that it's going to be like to the audience, like, oh my God, that's Abstract. They're doing crazy, weird, interesting shit that maybe next time we should go to their concert. We should go to their event. It's fun. It's not just your normal percussion concert. This is what's set as a side. So always think about that in the back of your head. Where you are in your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, if you're going to the US, you're going to Europe. This is a long-term goal. You're always thinking, you're always looking at the scene, you're always looking at what's next in the scene and what you can contribute in the scene. Just because everybody's playing marimba music doesn't mean that you have to play marimba music. It's not a career path that everybody should follow. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. If you have a very clear vision of you doing marimba music as a solo marimbist, then do it. Then talk to marimba soloists, talk to marimba teachers, talk to marimba solo students, find out the festival, find out the school. This is what you should be doing. But find your own jam, find your own voice. I know a DMA student, he's doing contemporary music drum set with glockenspiel. It's like the craziest combo, right? But this is what he does. He does crazy funk, crazy groupings, crazy grooves on drum set, a light jazz kit with the glockenspiel, with electronics, live electronics. It's amazing, and you can go to school for that. You can go to school for everything. This is why we go to graduate school, because hopefully in the 4 years of undergrad training, you are so thoroughly familiarized with all the repertoire, you find who you are and you polish that skill, you polish that identity, you grow it. It's like planting a seed, right? It's sprouted. You want to grow it. You want to nurture it. You want to be in an environment where you can grow exponentially. This is why you go to grad school. This is why you want to do master. This is why you have master classes with people traveling or with people online. And one thing I think we can all take out from this pandemic is don't be afraid to reach out. Everybody is deprived of creativity and playing music. Even talking to a teacher or like-minded individual artist or anybody can be very fulfilling for both parties. So do it. You guys are going to have a lot of questions, I know. Hopefully you have a lot of questions and hopefully I can get you thinking in this 30-something minutes. There's a couple of videos I want you guys to see and some of the pieces I mentioned and some of the stuff that we've done with Abstract. One of the pieces, the disco piece I was talking about, was written for me for live electronics, inspired by disco music, but still very hard to play. And one piece is a duo piece excuse me, by Paul Lansky, one of my favorite chamber music solo piece, duo piece, I played last year in the recital here. This is something that is always going to stay with me in my journey because the piece is called Travel Diary. I travel a lot. Whenever I travel, whenever I play pieces like that in different countries, I have a different interpretation of what I'm going through. The third piece is one of the movements from Jonathan Adams' Strange and Sacred Noise. It's a quartet. We've done with Abstract last year, and what we've done is we shot this entirely in 360 camera. So the entire concert, there's no gaps. 75 minutes of music. Audience can walk through the concert hall. They can lay down on the floor. There are 10 movements, and we shot it in 360 camera. So you can actually, on YouTube, you can swipe 360 and find everybody, because the setup, it's sort of a circular setup. So there's no right side. Everything is a right side. So I hope you enjoyed this session. My last advice and my last thing I think you guys can take away is always be dependable. Okay, be dependable. Be when people ask you things, can you do this? Yes, say yes. Be dependable. Be solid. Okay, and be responsive. Don't wait for a week to reply emails, okay? If someone asks you, can you do this gig next week or 2 weeks later because the other player backed out? If you're gonna be like, oh my God, I don't know how to do it, I don't have pieces, what should I do, you know? 4 days later, when you reply to that email, they're gonna say, oh, we haven't heard from you, so we found another one. It happens all the time, okay? Be responsive and be nice to people. Be genuine and be nice. Don't be someone that is not who you are. Don't try to be someone that's not who you are. Always treat people with respect and be genuine, because genuine is going to carry you to places and people will feel how real you are. Basically, you're real. You're not trying to kiss ass. You're not trying to impress people. Don't impress people, you know? Just because XYZ is coming to town and you want to take a lesson, you want to impress him, don't impress him or her. Be impressed. Play something and show him who you are, who your music is, who your personality is, and hopefully he'll be impressed by your personality. You see what I mean? Not to impress people. And this is what I have to say. I hope you guys find this useful. I know this wonderful encuentro that Marina put together every year is a little different, especially this year. We have a lot. I know we have a lot of guests from overseas, and I think everybody have different things to say. If you want to reach out, you can find me on Instagram. You can DM me on Facebook, on Instagram, email me. You can ask Nacho, you can ask Nico, and everybody who's met me in person, and we can talk about many things in life. Special shout out to Nacho and Nico for adding subtitles to all these wonderful videos. It's a daunting task. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of video editing, but you know, be nice to them, buy them beer. You know, they're good dudes. So until then, hopefully I'll see you guys in Argentina next year, and we'll have some fun. Ciao.